So it made me, of course, curious. And so I figured, then they told me it's going to be a bunch of academics there who study heavy metal. So all of you actually are academics who go to school and you study heavy metal? Is that what's happening here? Yeah. For real? Like, okay, just checking. So I actually have a lot of questions for you people. In LA, everyone thinks I'm Chavo from System of a Down. I'm not kidding. At least that makes sense, right? We're both bald, we both have stupid beards. I get that, especially when I'm in the back of a taxi cab and it's an Armenian cab driver, as most of them are in Los Angeles. And they look at me in the mirror and they turn around and they go, System of a Down! Not even just Chavo. Somehow I encompass the whole band. We kind of always tried to look at it as any success any of us had, it's only going to open the doors for everyone else. So, like, for instance, I'll take it all the way back to before Anthrax had anything. We didn't have a record deal. We were just kids in New York City making demos. And I used to drive down, me and Danny Wilker from Nuclear Assault, Danny and I used to drive down to Johnny Z's record store, Rock and Roll Heaven. You want to talk about the genesis of the whole thing. We would drive down on weekends. It was only open on the weekends. If you guys are familiar with Rock and Roll Heaven and Johnny Z and his place in the history of this whole thing. Anyway, we had met Johnny Z because he promoted a show in Staten Island. It was October 31st, 1982, I believe. It was Riot, Anvil, and Raven at the St. George Theater in Staten Island. It was billed as the Headbangers Ball. This is before MTV had a show called Headbangers Ball. And it was in October of '82. It was going to be right around Halloween. And he's got Riot, Anvil, and Raven playing. We got to meet this guy, Johnny Z, like Rock and Roll Heaven, who was promoting the show. And we met him that day, just standing in line, waiting to get into the show. We meet this guy, Johnny Z. He's out front handing out flyers for another Raven and Anvil gig happening the next weekend at a club in New Jersey. And we meet Johnny Z and like, who are you? And we're like, we're in a band called Anthrax. This is October of '82. We've done nothing. We just had a couple of demo tapes. And we had him a demo tape and all that. And he's like, I'll play it in my store. Well, where is that? Rock and Roll Heaven. It's in New Jersey, down in Oak Ridge. Oh, cool. We'll come down this week. He goes, well, it's only open on the weekends. Like, what are you talking about? He said, it's in a flea market. It's in his little stand in this thing, and it's only open on Saturdays and Sundays. It was like, first time I heard Metallica, I had never heard that before. And as much as I loved it, I have to admit I was a little bit jealous. I was, because we were trying so hard to, do something and write songs and be the best band we could be with Anthrax. And I'm listening to this demo tape from this band that I had never heard of from San Francisco. And I'm like, how did they do that? Like, how did they write these songs and how does it sound so good? And like, in my mind, they were miles ahead of us already at that point. Like, and then of course you get lumped in with it by the media that didn't know the difference between Anthrax and Poison. Because it's not funny. The mainstream media had no idea. They didn't know. They didn't know the difference between it was all heavy metal to them, and certainly Megadeth, all those West Coast bands. There was definitely a more serious image, definitely more conscious of that, about that harder kind of being taken seriously kind of thing. Whereas with us, we never cared, obviously. If you go back to go Google pictures of me from the 80s. Never thought twice about it because we never felt we needed to. Our attitude, who cares if we're in a band? We're the same as the people coming to see us. We're the same as the people who listen to our records. We just happened to have been able to put a band together and make that happen for ourselves. But we're just fans just like everybody else. And why can't we just be ourselves? And why can't we smile and laugh and tell jokes and wear stupid shorts and jump around like idiots on stage? And lyrics, it I can't say it came easy because writing lyrics is extremely difficult sometimes, but it felt good to me. And I decided, I made a conscious, I don't know, conscious, unconscious, I made a decision that I wasn't going to write stuff that people had already done. That's where that comes from. The fact that we weren't writing about what all the other heavy metal bands were writing about at the same time as us, or the bands that came before us. Ronnie Dio had already covered the world of fantasy adventure better than I ever could. You know what I mean? Like, other bands covered the world of girls and cars better than I ever could. I didn't know girls and cars, right? I grew up in New York City. I didn't own a car, and girls didn't want anything to do with me. You can't beat Stargazer, so why try? Like, that was kind of my attitude. So, they say write what you know. Like, I think I read that somewhere as a kid. Write what you know. Okay, what do I know? I don't know anything, right? Like, I knew nothing as a 22-year-old. I knew about comic books. I knew about skateboarding, movies, Stephen King. So go back and look at the lyrics, right? What the hell, what was I writing about on those albums?